Om Devaki Nandanaya Vitmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Krishna Prachodayat.
Yeah.
Now, one thing you mentioned in a satsang that I think I would love you to repeat, because so many people here have that anxiety. Oh, Guruji, he's mad at me, or Guruji, he didn't look at me today. And here, you were saying how he was guiding you since you were young, and yet there are days when he shouts at you or makes you feel like maybe I shouldn't be here. But it's part of the training, right? It's part of
To think for a second to say. Well, yeah. I mean, the guru relationship is, I would say, I remember even coming back from the trip from Lanzarote with Guruji a couple of weeks ago, just before this love festival. And the one thing, the first thought, because the moment actually when we came back, when I dropped off Guruji responsibility, brought the suitcases to his house, and like, I'm done.
right.
I went for parikrama just to just relax and just think about things somehow. And one thought that crossed my mind is, I've been with him for almost 20 years, and I still have no idea who he is. I still have I'm more confused than I've ever been confused about him. Because obviously you cannot predict Guruji and your relationship with him. Of course you grow, but that is the intense thing about Guruji, is that he never stays the same. He's always moving. It's just like in a relationship, he can change anytime. And with most people, you have one kind of relationship, right? I have a relationship with my mother. I have a certain relationship with my father. I have a certain relationship with my brother. And different people in the ashram, right? You have kind of like, you know where you stand, you know what I mean? Like, you know where you stand, you know who you are, and how to behave and whatever. With Guruji, he's all of these things, and it can literally shift in 2 seconds from one to the other, right? And it was like this in Lanzarote all the time. Sometimes he was a strict guru. Sometimes he was just, there were some days like in the morning, he came, like every morning, I tried to get up around 2 hours earlier to have the table ready, breakfast table ready, prepares things, prepare the puja. As soon as he opens the door, I take his deities, I do abhishek to his deities, and etc. Right? As when he's getting ready. And there were some moments where he, like I said, he was super strict in some things, and then in the next moment we would like, he would criticize me for something, and the next moment it switches, and we're just having fun in the kitchen making pancakes, and like making fun about my little baby pancake, and because I tried to make a new recipe, which is obviously like gluten-free and everything, and no sugar,
Right.
and whatever, because with this diet right now, with this diabetes diet.
Yeah.
And so I tried, because there was different flour and everything, so I didn't know how it's going to react. I tried like a little baby pancake just to see how it reacts, because I don't want to waste the dough. And so he was making fun about my baby pancake all the time. It's like, oh, look, this is just because you're small doesn't mean your pancake should be small, whatever. It was like, leave it, I will do it. So he was just, making pancakes, and we were just in the kitchen making, it was super fun. And then like 10 minutes later, you can just change and just be like a different role, right? And so this like the intense thing about being with Guruji, and like he actually said, I remember last year in Mauritius when he started the online satsangs, many people asked like, how is it to be close to the Guru, right? Because many like every devotee or many people, they want to be close to him naturally, right? And I have the same thing. Even if I'm here in the ashram, it doesn't mean that I'm close to him, right? Sometimes he's in ashram and I don't even see him for like 4 or 5 days, right? Because it is how it is, right? And so I had the same longing somehow, yeah. But to be around him, like we just said, when you're close to fire, you get very easily burned. Like it's very hot when you're close to fire. And the Guru is the ultimate fire. Right? And so to be around him is amazing. And at the same time, it is very intense, right? In many different ways. And this the one aspect that I just said, it's just one aspect of it. It's that constant change, is that constant, you cannot at any time be comfortable, right? Because you don't know where you stand, you don't know what's gonna happen. You like around him, it's always like a feeling of not knowing like what's gonna happen, right? So it's you have to be constantly alert and aware.
Right.
And I've experienced this a lot in being able to help him doing in rituals, in pujas, like during the events. Because
Can't imagine.
I think probably puja and saint relics is two of the things that Guruji is the most strictest about in general, from my experience. Maybe this is my experience, I don't know, because that's my two duties.
Right.
But like what I've noticed a lot is that for so many years, whenever Guruji would come down for the event, he would always criticize something. He would never say, oh, you did a good job and whatever, right? He would always criticize, right? And whenever he would criticize, I am something who naturally goes very easily into this victimizing myself, making myself down and bad. I'm such a bad person. I do everything wrong. I mess everything up. And and for the first couple of years, it was so hard for me because literally the only time I would see him would be for events. And the only thing that he would say to me would criticize me for everything, right? I wouldn't say shouting, but at least criticizing, right? And
but he's very intense. No matter what he says, it hits you like a bullet, doesn't it?
Guruji likes to make drama. Not everything, right? Otherwise, it doesn't have the same effect.
Right.
And I've noticed is that the more, especially doing puja, it's the same thing. You have to be always like focused and in the moment, right? And what I've slowly realized is that if I make a mistake and Guruji criticizes or shouts at me, and I spend that time victimizing myself, in that time I already make a next mistake. And then I put myself down again. In that time I make the next mistake and the next mistake, right? And so what I've had to somehow learn over time with the prayers is that of course I take what he says as a input, as a feedback, and I try to take the facts of what he's saying. I'm trying to divide the facts from the drama or the emotions which come up inside of me, and I just try to improve the factual point that he says and not make the same mistake, but then I just push it aside. And it's next, what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next.
Right.
Focus on the moment, to always stay in the moment, stay here, stay here. And for me, that's a really an amazing lesson for life, actually.
Yeah.
It's so important. And that's for me what positive thinking actually is. What staying positive means. It doesn't mean to make up positive thoughts and like visualize unicorns and flowers and whatever, right? For me, it's staying positive means for me to stay in the moment and to stay focused on what is necessary right now.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean that I don't analyze what I make mistakes or to improve myself, right? But there's also a time for it, right? In these moments when I'm needed, I need to be here. Ding, 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 right? I can do thinking later, right? And I've noticed that actually it took me a year to realize, after 6 or 7 years of him shouting at me nonstop, is that actually he stopped shouting at me. Like it took me a year to realize that actually he's been going more at other people than at me. Because I was
You're just so shell-shocked, you thought for a whole year that he was still...
Yeah, I was so used to like I do everything wrong all the time, right? And someone like when I was thinking about what happened that it changed, I realized actually the only thing that I made like try to do different is not to put myself down, not to become negative and victimize myself, right? Because actually the guru is like a mirror. Actually, it's not usually guru is a mirror. The Guruji is like a multiplying glass. Like
Right.
he doesn't just mirror everything. He actually makes everything bigger than it is, or than you think it is, so that
Yeah.
you can see it, right?
Right.
And so actually, I realized that Guruji wasn't doing anything else other than reflecting what I was doing to myself.
Mm.
And so obviously other people, let's say parents maybe, that might have a different approach of teaching, right?
Mhm.
Like when you're down, when you're putting yourself down, etc., they're there to like Guruji likes to say pamper, like they
Right.
make you feel better, and like, yeah, life is not easy, and Guruji is different. Guruji, if you feel bad, Guruji just punches 2 more times just so you feel worse. Right? Sometimes, not always, but sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So that he reflects certain things so much more onto you, so you realize what is happening inside of you, what you're doing wrong, and what you need to learn.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you realize it, when you actually change it about yourself, that is also what he reflects, right?
Mm.
And that's the thing with the relationship with Guruji, is that he will always find something. And that is something that I had to also realize for myself. Because like I said, I became obsessed with, I need to prepare the perfect prayer. I need to do the perfect mantra, do the perfect everything. And at some point I realized I will never do it perfect. That is the beauty of it. That's the perfection in it, that it will never be perfect.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that I don't try to improve, that I don't try to do it better, and etc. Right? But is that acceptance that, because I had it so many times also, is that when I prepare an event, and I don't do lists, right? I don't do like, I have a preparation list and I need this, tick, 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 tick. I've got it. I do everything, I do it somehow from feeling or from my experience and whatever. And so I had several events where I was like, okay, I got 100%, I got everything. I double check, triple check. I asked 5 people to check also, just in case I didn't see anything. Everything was perfect, in my opinion, right?
Right.
And Guruji comes down and he comes up with something that we've never used before. And he's like, I didn't prepare this, whatever, right? And he makes you down completely, right?
Yeah.
How can you forget this? I thought you were like doing this for years, and etc., right? Because he notices that little spark of pride that comes by thinking I do something perfectly.
Right.
And so immediately has to do that, right? I mean, that acceptance also, is that not, he doesn't do that because he doesn't love you. He doesn't shout at you because he doesn't love you. He actually shouts at you because he loves you, and because he wants you to constantly improve and learn something, right? And he's not the kind of person, let's call him a person, who is going to be like, oh yeah, you did a great job, you prepared everything amazingly, great job, Keshava, you're the best. This will never happen. And I had to accept that, because I always had this, like, you want to hear that, no? Like I think everybody wants to hear that, right? But I just had to accept at a certain point, is that this will never happen with Guruji. And actually, if you accept that, it might actually happen. It's true.
That's right.
Like once I gave up this expectation of him saying that to me, it actually came once. The Guruji said, like, he didn't even say anything. He didn't. This was maybe another short story. I'm sorry. Maybe.
No, I love it.
Like, obviously, Navaratri is usually one of the biggest events of the year. Like, not only like it's, I guess, because it's like 10 days, right? So it's quite a long time, and usually it takes at least 3 weeks to prepare. It's in a tent. It's quite a lot of work to prepare the tent. So it kind of looks nice. And it was like, I started a month earlier. It was a lot of work. We were in the tent preparing, decorating every day. And we're just ready like only the day before, as it usually is, right? And I remember there was a procession starting at 5 o'clock. Like always, we start procession, and then they come to the tent, to the tent, to the altar to bring the deities, and then Navratri starts. And I remember the procession was going. I didn't even go for the procession. We had some last things to prepare and set up the Guru Puja and all this kind of stuff. And I was hearing them coming back, and I was getting nervous, and still have to this and that and small things. And especially when you're doing this kind of stuff, I see small stuff everywhere that,
Right.
that is not finished. Maybe normal, everybody else will never see this. Like it's perfect, it's fine, right? But if you're decorating, like if you like this kind of stuff, you like everywhere, like the small things. This is not right. This is not perfect. This pleat is not good, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, so they were coming. I was ready, but I was really like stressed and nervous and stuff. And then before the deities came in, Guruji came behind the curtain, and I was not in the mood of like, because I was already expecting. I was like, oh, he's gonna criticize something, because like I was in that routine. I was ready for it.
Yeah.
Right. And Guruji stands next to me, because I was standing by the curtain looking at the altar, and Guruji stands next to me, and he's like, so nice. And I just burst out crying,
Oh no.
because I couldn't say anything. I had no expectation. I had nothing. And Guruji didn't even say, you did a good job, you did whatever, right? He just said,
Right.
like, even this like the sound that he made, for me, it just like my heart just like burst out, right? And
Oh.
this is amazing how sometimes you just, I don't even call it work, but you just try your best for weeks and weeks, right? Just for a few days of the Divine Mother, right? And you just with just 1 second of one action, one like breath of like happiness from Guruji, it just rewards weeks and weeks of work, right? And it's just amazing to see how differently Guruji always reacts, and how strict he can always be, and how sweet and amazing he is also always at the same time.
Well, and the way he's training you, it's such a lesson in constant heightened awareness, right? Like nobody can be daydreaming or, snoozing around him. Like they're every second.
Grounding, most important thing.
Right.
Yes. Remember, I think somebody got very shocked. I don't remember. Somebody was asking me, I don't remember where it was, in a satsang, I think it was at some point. Somebody was asking me, what is the one lesson that you have learned with Guruji in all the time living with him? Does somebody remember what I answered?
I remember.
What did I say?
Because I asked you.
What did I say?
Oh.
Yeah, we were like together, and I asked you what you learned, and you basically told me, if that's the same experience you're talking about, what you told me was that Guruji just told you shut up and work.
No, Guruji didn't say that. I said that.
Yeah, what you learned. Yeah, sorry, what you learned. And it actually stuck in my mind also, like a lot the day. So every time I have to do something, or my sadhana or whatever, I just think of this word, and it actually helps. It was a really good advice. Yeah, so if we're talking about the same thing, that was me. Yeah. Yeah, it was nice to hear that. Although I do feel sorry about you, because I know you get less sleep than I do.
No, it's not.
Anyway.
Really sorry. I don't feel pity. Yeah, shut up and work. Well, not work in that sense, but shut up. I mean, it helped me a lot in many different ways. And that's not only when Guruji is talking to you, because that is, if Guruji is ever tough on you and is talking to you, that is the best advice I can give you. Zip it. Okay. It's another story. Maybe I can tell you another story after. There's too many stories, right? But it is not only shut up in the outside, but shut up here. For me, that's somehow the best thing I learned from Guruji, from helping him, from doing the prayers, the rituals with him, and just life in itself, right? we always like to go so much in drama. We like to go so much into the negativity, right? And so what helped me a lot is simply just to tell myself, shut up and work, shut up and focus on what is important.
Right.
You can put it in nice. I just like to say shut up and work because it sounds more like dramatic, right?
It's a better bumper sticker. Shut up and work.
Because it solves so many issues. From what I've noticed in myself, it helps me in so many different ways, in so many situations where I unintentionally always just go into the drama, go into my stuff, emotional and whatever. And it just helps me to bring me back to reality, somehow to refocus somehow.
Yeah, because it's just the mind coming up with questions that are often unnecessary.
Yeah,
Just-
questions and doubts.
Just
And
do what you're told. Yeah.
do what you're told. Yes. There's
Now I don't want to keep you up past your bedtime, but does anybody have questions that you would like to ask Swami?
still early. Just getting warmed up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, anybody has any questions or any whatever?
Jai Gurudev, Swami Keshava. Bhakta Anugrah Kaindasi. I'm from the Czech Republic. I would like to listen some experience with Narasimha when you worship him. If you have if you can share some experience how he is alive in the temple.
I don't have any visions. If that's what you hear, I'm sorry. He didn't appear. He didn't come out of the pillar. He didn't smash my head and chew on my intestines or nothing like this. Actually, because so many people see Narasimha as like the Ugra form, right? Actually, I see him very differently. I've never experienced him in the Ugra form. Like even if, and sure, I think that I'm 100% aware of at the moment why Guruji gave me Narasimha to look after, or him look after me, whatever. It's more like it. But because he's in his energy and mood, he's very different to Krishna, right? Krishna is very dramatic. Guruji is Krishna is very playful in his way, right? Nishingadev is not, right? Nishingadev is very different. For me, Nishingadev, if I describe Krishna in lines, I would go like this, right? If I describe Nishingadev, it's like this, right? It's highway, straight, no joking around, right? In terms of mood, right? And that's what I feel a lot is just what helps me, what I need a lot at the moment, and in many different ways. But if I look at Narasimhadev, he is a lot physically, even he is in that way serving him, right? He is not dancing around. Well, actually he is, but like in terms of murti and that feeling, right? Because actually our murti is dancing, right? He's on one leg, basically. But because I compare him maybe with Tulsi, I was serving Tulsi for a week or so when the pujaris were sick. So I felt that difference very extremely, right? Because Nishingadev is, when you serve him, the feeling is just stable. Like he's not moving, he's straightforward, right? And even if you lean on him, if you dress him, you have he's huge, right? You have to go around to tie stuff behind him. And Tulsi was the complete opposite. Like they're literally on the opposite of each other of the temple, right? She's on the other side of the temple. She's small, she's sensitive, she likes small girly stuff, and Tulsi is just super sweet and filigran. I don't know the English word, or it's English word, right? And he's just strong, stable, right? Disciplined. And in that same way, sometimes I felt that doing puja, especially also, out of nowhere, there are certain things coming up inside of me, right? Especially I've felt that for some time. I've felt that with anger, which I've really not used to. I'm not a generally angry person, right? But I've noticed at some points, and there was a period of time where that came up a lot, is that when I was dressing him, when I was doing puja, I would just become so angry, and I would have no idea where it comes from, no idea. So I'd always just pray to him like, I give it, yeah, do you take it? I don't know where it comes from. It comes, you bring it up, you take it, right? Because I had no idea what to do with it, right? So sometimes because I didn't know what to do with physically, so I actually just, like in the evening, we offer the flower to him when we put him to bed, right? So I just took that flower because I didn't know what else to do. I felt like punching something. I was so angry, right? So I took the flower and I was literally just put all my anger into that flower and I put it to his feet, and it instantly just disappeared, like just flew away, right? And it's just amazing when I looked up, and actually that's every evening when I look up. Obviously, it depends on the kind of view that you have. But when I look up, I just see him smile, right? Of course, maybe he looks very upset and angry with his huge mouth and big teeth and sharp teeth. But actually for me, he just looks so happy and joyful. Like he just has a big smile and he's the most sweetest. And maybe about like the mornings, like when we dress Shingadev in the mornings, it usually takes, for me, it takes about 45 minutes, not just dressing him, but like getting everything ready and stuff. So it always depends, obviously, how much, if you put more details, a garland and, more or less things. I would say like 45 minutes I take every morning, 45, 50 minutes. Yeah. So waking up at 6 and so on. Sometimes, this is Pujari life, there are late nights and there are early mornings, right? And so one thing I've noticed, and I didn't have that for a while, maybe for the past year, but for some time I had a lot of trouble to even hear my alarm. Like I would just not wake up, right? But I would never not at all wake up, like sleep in so I don't dress him. But so I would notice that very often I would sleep through my alarm, but then I would just randomly wake up and I would be very late, but I'd rush and come down, and I'd come down at my 6:30. So instead of having 45 minutes, 1 hour to get him dressed, I have 20 minutes, which is impossible because like half the time. But every time I finish at 55 or maybe 58, right? Every time. And I do exactly the same thing. I don't feel stressed. I don't feel rushed. I do think quickly, maybe a bit more quick than usually, but I finish on time, and I cannot explain it. Like that's every time it's like this, every time. And I cannot understand it. It doesn't make any logical sense to me. So I feel like every time, firstly, it's not me actually, I don't come for myself to serve him. He wants me to come to dress him. And so even if I don't wake up, if I don't hear my alarm, he comes to wake me up, to kick me out of bed. And he understands, he has so much understanding and love that he even stops time to, like often it even feels like he helps me to dress him, like he puts stuff on himself. That's what it feels like sometimes. So it goes quicker, especially when I'm late. And so that it's not like it's like a crazy experience or something, but it's just like a somehow daily thing that I just feel all the time, is that it's not about me dressing him, me doing things. It's about him working through to dress himself somehow. And yeah, it's just really amazing to have that opportunity.
there's a question that's been written in the chat, Swami. Someone's asking if you've got an Ishtadev. So other than what you're doing in the temple, has Guruji manifested something for you or given you a personal?
Personal Murti.
Yeah,
Well,
you got two.
Ishtadev, yes, for sure. Krishna. For a long time, I remember in the beginning when this whole Ishtadev topic came up, I didn't even ask Guruji. I didn't even want to ask, to be honest. It was like a new trend, you know, everybody's asking like, oh, Guruji, who's my Ishtadev? Who's my Ishtadev? And like, I felt stupid to ask Guruji because I was like, probably really annoyed with the question. And like, and at the time I was feeling extremely close to Devi, to Kamakshi. But Krishna was always there, even if I would worship different deities sometimes, even especially during like certain events, I would feel really close to the deity, like Narasimha Chaturthi, or, you know, it would change, but Krishna was always there. So at some point I was like, okay, whatever, because Guruji was like, ask me something. I was sitting next to him. And usually when Guruji says that, everything just turns blank. I just can't think of anything. And so Guruji asked the second time, like, ask me something. And I was like, oh my God, I have to come up with something to ask him because I have no questions. And so I was like, just the one thing that just came to my mind is like, oh, who's my Ishtadev? Like, I didn't even want to ask. I was like, oh, who's my Ishtadev? And Guruji was like, you don't know? And I was like, Krishna? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay. That was it. But did Guruji give you, you have a personal murti of Guruji? Yes, basically all the deities that I have here. I can show you. Yeah. So you can see I'm stuck somewhere. You can see the big Krishna. This is the Krishna that used to be on Guruji's altar back in Steffenshof. It's a Chaturbhuja Krishna, so the four-armed Krishna. So he has the flute and the Shankha Chakra. This Krishna, and he gave me around 2008. And actually he always gave me, he always made sure that I remember that he did not give him to me. He only gave me to look after until he finds somebody better to look after him. He continues, he's been telling me this the last 10 years actually. And I remember last year for my birthday, or around my birthday, I don't know. He was walking by the window. I was doing a satsang and he was walking by the window. And he's like, happy birthday, Keshava. And he's like, and he was sitting here in front of Krishna and was praying to him. And again, he was saying like, oh, it's my Krishna, it's not your Krishna. You remember? It's my Krishna. And then he said, no, he's yours now. You can keep him. So he says, he's my Krishna. It doesn't maybe make any difference because anyway, if Guruji says he wants him back, he gets him. It's not, whatever. Yeah, so he gave me this Krishna and he gave me the Shaligram, which he said it was his favorite Shaligram back in the day, but you know, so I was serving them. And then, but actually that was later. First he gave me the small Krishna, and I'll show you again. A small Krishna, maybe you can't see so well. It's the exact same Krishna than the big one, just in small. So after I moved here to the ashram, I had left all the deities at home in my dad's place, because we didn't have personal altar. We just had like a family altar, right? And where we did our prayers and everything. And so I could have taken Krishna, I guess, because I was mainly taking care of him. It was kind of my one, but I didn't want to take him because then they didn't have Krishna at home, right? And so after I came here, actually the only thing that I had on my altar was a Tusi plant and a picture of Guruji. And obviously you can't really do Abhishek with picture of Guruji or a Tusi plant. And so after like a few months, I was really like longing to have a murti again of Krishna to do Abhishek or to do proper puja. And at some point, somebody called me and said, oh, Guruji called you to the lunch table. And so I went, and Guruji said, "Oh, I heard you want a Krishna, you want the Murti." And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, I haven't actually told anybody. I didn't speak to anybody about it, right? But Guruji was like, "I heard you want a deity." So he gave me this Krishna, and he said, "Look after him." And so I started to look after him. And like 2 years later, maybe even 3 years later, I don't know, Swami Revati came to me. He's like, "Whoa, wow, I didn't know you have a materialized Krishna." And I was like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "Yeah, Guruji said he made 2 Chaturbuja Krishna for the twins, because Pankaj also has Krishna, 4-arm Krishna." And I was like, "What?" And so I went to Guruji and was like, "Guruji, is my Krishna materialized?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Guruji, why you didn't tell me?" And he was like, "So what? Would you have looked after him differently?" And I was like, "I guess not." Still a nice detail, but it's true. Fair point. In the end, it's given by him. It's a deity of Krishna. So I guess the service, I would have taken it as serious as, yeah. But yeah. So that's him. And yeah, it's a deity I serve, I guess. Maybe you can see the Laddu Gopal on my shoulder. Laddu Gopal. I told you that for many years I was bringing Krishna to bed, the Laddu Gopal in the temple every evening. And for me, it was really the most important thing in my life or in my day. And for me, actually, he was not so much of Krishna in terms of God, but he was just my little brother, right? Most of the time. And every evening I would feel so sad that I have to actually leave the temple. So I don't see him until the morning. And at some point I was like, I really wish I had you in my room. And I obviously couldn't take him to my room. I don't know if Guruji would like that if I steal the temple deity. So I was like, okay. And Swami Tulsidas had made a tulsi, ordered a tulsi in India. And this company actually made deities the way that you want, right? So it's not just ordering, but you send them pictures and stuff, and they make a replica, right? So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do that, so I can have Laddu Gopal in my room also at any time I want. So I ordered the Krishna. Actually, they made some adjustments that are really weird. Like I think they were cybites, because the Tulsi necklace that he had, it looks like Rudrakshas. And like instead of peacock feathers on his head, it looks like he has a snake, like Shiva somehow. It's weird, but he's a bit unique. It's nice. And so I was super excited when he was going to come, and I told Guruji that I ordered Laddu Gopal replica, and Guruji got so upset with me. He was so upset. It's like, who do you think you are? You don't know how much work it is to look after Laddu Gopal. Like, it's a baby. You don't know what it takes like to look after a baby and stuff. Like, it's a child. Like, you have to look after him. You have to give him breakfast. You have to put him to bed and whatever. Don't you have already enough to do? Like, and he got super upset. And actually, I really didn't feel upset. Like, I was like, that just sounds like reasons that, like, good reasons. Like, you're forced to spend a lot of time with Krishna. Like, it's terrible. But he was super upset, right? And I get it. Like, he was making a point that it's a big responsibility, right? That if you have a deity, if you don't just get a new deity, you don't just buy a new deity, you have to really be fully aware that it's a responsibility to look after, right? And so I remember when he came, I was still happy that he was coming, but I had like a bit mixed feeling because of Guruji, right? And obviously I had to get him blessed, so I was like, yeah. And so when he came, I brought him to Guruji's place to ask him to bless him, and I had this like, like, I'm really happy, but I really like how he looks, and I'm really happy with him, but I don't know what's gonna happen when I bring him to Guruji. And like the moment I brought him around the corner, when Guruji saw him, he was like, whoa. It's like he was so happy, so sweet. And Guruji was like, so, can I have him? And I was like, yeah. Right. So I was like, okay. It's like, okay, put him in the temple, right? Because the Ladu Gopal is very old. Like he's 500 years plus old. And so it's not so like with all the pujaris and taking up and down and Abhishek every day and everything, not so good, right? So Guruji said he should be the Utsava for the Ladu Gopal in the temple. So now that the Ladu Gopal that I bought for my room, both Ladu Gopals were in the temple, right? I could still look after him because I was looking after him in the temple, but still in the temple, right? And yeah, I mean, it was nice. So he was some of the temple deity for 3 or 4 years, maybe. And then one trip into India, Guruji brought like a small Ladu Gopal, golden Ladu Gopal. And so when he came, the small one, Guruji brought him to the temple, and he was like, oh, look, he wants to go back to you now. And so since then he came back to my room. So it's an amazing blessing actually. Then he was the Utsava for the temple one, which is actually what I wanted, right? I wanted the same Ladu Gopal. And so if he becomes the Utsava, he is the same. When you worship him, you worship the one in the temple. And then after 3-4 years, he was like, okay, you can go home now. Yep. So that's my deities down here. There's some more stories up there, but it's okay.
Well, so we got one more question, which is the big one. How did you become a Swami? When Radhakananda did the satsang with us, he was saying that Guruji waited till you got out of school and immediately made you a Swami. So,
well, to answer the question simply, it's very easy. Guruji's choice, obviously. He told me already in 2008, but he said I can't do it when you're in school. And then I just, because I still had 5 years of school, so I actually just forgot about it. I didn't care too much. And I remember 2012. I mean, I had my final exams and everything, probably like March, April, May, and like school finishing would have been in June, like when we get our exams and results and stuff. But then Guruji invited me to go to the pilgrimage in the Himalayas to the Char Dham,
wow.
beginning of June. And actually that was exactly the 2 weeks. So we didn't have school anymore, but we had like some things happening. So that was the 2 weeks in which we had the prom and we get the results of the final exams and everything. So I wasn't there for that. It would have been for my birthday actually. And so I was in India with Guruji at that time. And like a few days before we left for the pilgrimage, I met Guruji by the Kali temple. He was going up, I was going down. And he was really upset because he just had a discussion with an ex-Swami, and he was really upset and whatever. And Guruji walked past me and I was like, this useless person, whatever, I don't want to say the name, right? Doesn't want to be a Swami anymore, he missed his opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, you should replace him. I want you to be a Swami. You want to be a Swami? And I was like, if you say so, like, I can't, I'm a brahmachari. If he says you should be a Swami, I can't say no, right? Anyway, because if Guruji tells you to do something, it's, by his grace. And so I was like, okay, but then I was like, okay, whatever. He was upset, so I don't have to think about it anymore. Probably I was just upset, whatever. And and so, but when we went for the Char Dham, he here and there, like he kept telling people, or he kept like making jokes. Like when we were walking through the street and he saw some orange clothes, I was like, Keshava, buy some, go buy some. And I was like I just didn't know what to do with it. Somehow I was like, whatever. And then we came back from the pilgrimage, and it's amazing actually, because this Char Dham it's believed that every Hindu should actually do this pilgrimage once in their life to cut or to get rid of all of their karma from this life, right? And for me, this pilgrimage really it was my first trip to India, and in some way it was very disappointing, and in some ways it was very beautiful, because it's disappointing in the way that it was very different to how I expected India to be.
Mm.
Because I had this very imaginary image of India in my mind, like huge temple, beautiful temples, decorated temples, like South India, actually. There's nothing like this in North India. It's very different, right? And basically I thought there's temples everywhere and like huge deities and amazingly dressed. And North India is different, right? Himalayas is very different.
Yeah.
Like basically it was just like hours and hours of bus driving and a couple of kilometers of hiking, which is amazing. I actually love it. I love nature and hiking and everything. But so it's very different, but it was a very beautiful trip in that sense. And it really felt like a cut, because like the moment that I left school, like before I had those ideas, like when I finish, I'm gonna make a big bonfire, burn all the math papers, and especially the math papers, Jesus Christ. And, stuff like that. Like I walked out of school and I literally, it felt like a cut. Like I've never even looked, like for the next 3 or 4 years, all my school stuff was in the cupboard, untouched, until my sister came and had her final exams and she took it to study, right? So I never even looked back or thought back. It was really like a cut. So as I was not here for receiving the final exams, the final school papers, because I was traveling with Guruji, I had to go back. I got the papers, and literally 1 day later, there was Gayatri Yagna. He initiated me for the Gayatri Yagna. And yeah, I don't know.
And you were how old? 19?
Just 20, yeah.
Just 20.
Like a week later. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Honestly, in many ways, it was not a big change in my life, to be honest. I never, of course, there are some things that come with the color or the responsibility, but in many ways it doesn't change any of what you are. Like, because I was a brahmachari before already for 6 or 7 years, and it didn't change anything in my lifestyle or in like the direction in my life in that way. So in that way, it didn't change anything, right? Of course, in other ways, it does bring certain other things, but yeah.
Well, and I love the way Guruji just knows the state that you're in, right? When I showed up at the ashram and he initiated me right away, he never asked me. I didn't ask him anything. He didn't ask me anything. All of a sudden I was just in the tent and it was happening and you were running around. I remember you getting garlands and things for me. And I just felt peace. I just thought he knew this was what I was looking for. And I'd been a sannyasin, a brahmachari for 12 years. So it was such a natural progression. I think people don't understand that he moves you along so that you're ready for each step.
Yeah, he does that with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, would you share some miracles?
Miracles. Ayo. To be honest, I'm not such a big fan of sharing miracles with I don't know how to put it in the right way, because for many years I was always looking for miracles. I always wanted to see something. I wanted to see Krishna. I wanted to see the deity, how the deity really is. But at some point I just realized that is not really what it's about, because it's an expectation. Also, it's a desire. It's something that you expect from him. And what I've noticed at a certain point is, what is service really about? Like if you serve the deity, if you serve Guruji, it's about really letting go every single expectation you have. And so even the expectation of him giving himself to you, that is not my place to ask for. The only thing that I should do is serve him and love him and express that love through my service to him. And then whatever he wants to give me, whatever he wants to show me, whatever he wants to do, it is up to him. I don't need to ask him, because he will give me if he sees that I need it, or that I'm ready for it, or that I'm whatever, right? And so in that sense, somehow I don't like to speak so much about miracles or something, because of course they're nice. At the same time, I think it's not what I'm looking for. It's not what we should desire even, because we should put our faith in Guruji and our love in Guruji, and have the trust that he will give us whatever we need.
I think I also put it wrong. Maybe I expressed myself wrong. I meant like miracles, but also like experience. It's like something what normal people cannot really experience because they can't really serve the deities. And like for example, Ananta Chidas, he shared the experience with Radha. If you know when the paint came off and so on, like these things, like I don't expect to hear like, I don't know, Krishna was walking around or whatever. It's just something what we can't really maybe notice or just be part of it because we are not there, we are not serving there.
I think everybody has the opportunity to serve their deities at home also, and they're the same. Then Guruji is present in all the deities. And actually, sometimes I've noticed from what I hear from devotees is that sometimes I feel like there's more miracles happening outside of SPN than actually in SPN. Guruji said it's actually by design. Like he doesn't allow it here. Because I remember, remember the Lakshminarayan deity that were in the small temple, the main deities, like the marble Lakshminarayan. And so after we moved to the new temple, they were somehow still there, and they were like they were in the museum, in the center of the museum for a while. And at some point, the museum had to move to the Babaji cave, and so they couldn't really go there because there was no space. And so they were there was an event, and everything was happening at the same time. And the Portuguese from Lisbon, they asked me first, and I was like because they wanted the deities, right? And they asked me like, is that something that's possible? Like, can we ask Guruji? And like, I was very hesitant because I was like, I don't want to give them away, so please don't ask him, because been serving them for years to build up certain attachments. And so in the end, they asked Guruji, and he gave them. He said, yes, bring them to Portugal. And I've been looking after them for years, right? Like dressing them and looking after them. And like they brought him to Portugal in the car. They drove to Portugal, and so they were changing the temple, getting the temple ready. And so for a couple of weeks, they stayed in the devotee's house. And so they made like a provisionary altar. When they arrived, they put him on the altar. They were looking after them really beautifully. And they have a little daughter, and she would give them the milk in the evening to bring them to bed, right? And it's like from the first evening on, every day they would drink the milk completely, right? Literally everything, the whole cup, they would drink it. She would pour it into their mouth, the milk was gone, right?
There's a video on their Facebook page of that
Yep, there's a
happening.
video.
Yeah.
And like in the morning when they would come into it was kind of like the living room, which had closed. So in the morning, when they would come into the living room, there would be like tulsi leaves on the floor everywhere, like materialized tulsi leaves everywhere. And as amazing as it is, it made me feel really, really bad either also. I was like, I have no idea what I've been doing wrong all these years, because the moment I leave, they seem to be very happy. But yeah, in the end, everything is Guruji's grace. So it's not in our control. In the end, it doesn't even matter that much. Like, you just have to do your best, your level best in serving them. And then in the end, everything else is his grace. Everything else in his hands. There was one example. Laddu Gopal ate my laddu once, and it's kind of. He chewed on my laddu once. Yeah, he ate half the laddu.
Who did?
Laddu Gopal.
Oh, nice.
Makes sense. Laddu Gopal, no? He has a laddu in his hand. So he likes laddus. Yeah, that was one story.
Well, I think that might be it. Thank you so much for your time. This has just been spectacular.
Thank you, everybody.
It's like the inner workings.
It's nice to see all of you. Thank you, everybody. Satgurudev Swami Vishwananda Mahaprabhu ki.
Yay!
Samasta Bhakta Mandali ki.
Yay!
ॐ देवकीनन्दनाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो कृष्णः प्रचोदयात्